COVID-19 update. So we are, New Zealand is in level 3 at this stage still. Today actually, tomorrow, the government is going to let us all know what level 2 will look like when we get there. There have been heaps of people who have been breaching the level 3 rules, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have to stay in level 3 longer. I think the government have been very clear communicating that the virus has a 2-week transmission or incubation, whatever, cycle. So me going out and coughing on people today means they get sick in two weeks. And people are ignoring that or not understanding that or choosing to not understand that, whatever, and taking, it seems that the fact that our case numbers, so yesterday we had 0 new cases and the day before that we had 0 new cases, and people kind of using that as fuel for, well, I want to go back to normal life. But actually those numbers are a representation of what we were doing 2 weeks ago. So yeah, heaps of people been breaching the rules. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. If it were me, honestly, I would extend level 3 by 1 week, just so that it's 3 weeks total duration, so that I can see the effect of all of these people going out. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, as I said, no new cases for the last 2 days, which is awesome. We're at 19 deaths total, and that number hasn't increased for a couple of days now. And all of the deaths, I believe, were 60 plus year olds. So huge chunk of the deaths came from one cluster in a rest home in Christchurch, which, yeah, is unfortunate. What else is going? So people are back at work. We've experienced one lot of Uber Eats and one lot of picking up some food. Uber Eats is more or less the same as it was before COVID, except for they drop the food on your doorstep and then knock, and then they kind of run away, and then you come out and give them a wee wave, and then they leave. And then pick up. So I went to Burger Fuel last night, and so Burger Fuel copped a lot of flack early on because basically they opened up the doors and people were crowding around and not maintaining social distancing. So when I went last night to Burger Fuel Mission Bay, it was really actually quite cool. I think, one of the cool parts of this is Kiwis are being so innovative. There's all of the restaurants have like a little window or opening with PayWave and a wee spot for them to deposit your food. And then on the footpaths outside, there's actually markers for where you stand so that you maintain your social distancing. So yeah, very cool. So I went and stood behind my wee marker, and then they called out my name and put my bag down, and then went away, and then I came and got my bag. So that was cool. It was cool. Really great to have Burger Fuel as well. Apparently in the last week, New Zealanders have consumed the equivalent of 5 weeks of takeaways. I guess that's based on our normal consumption. So yeah, takeaway joints will be doing really well. Heaps of builders out and about. Businesses are getting back to it, and there have been stories around of business, everyone was very grumpy and sort of level 3 is just level 4 with takeaways. But actually there have been stories going around of businesses who are making it work, and maybe they're not at their full income, but they've got income and they didn't expect to, because they've had to innovate. So they've found a way, which is really cool. So it will be. I'm sure that down the track, and the political machine is really fired up, I'm sure that this will be used as a political platform to say that we massively overreacted and to kick out the government. And it just makes me sad, because it will be very easy for them to do it and lots of people will believe it, and it's just like, number one, 4 weeks of the economy, 4 weeks of silly boy, 4 weeks of everyone taking their annual leave, and not even everyone, just the people who couldn't continue to operate, and the whole country's up in arms. And yes, I acknowledge that tourism's dead, and that sucks, tourism and hospitality, although minus, takeaways, that's far from dead. But, you're alright, buddy. So shaky today. Anyhow, people up in arms on how, it's the most disastrous thing ever to happen is our economy going on pause for 4 weeks, and what number of lives really are worth it. And that's such a horrible discussion to be having. Like, ultimately the economy is money. People say, well, the economy going on hold means people will die via suicides will increase. There's been a radio campaign from people saying, please, like from some suicide organisation saying, please stop talking about suicides increasing, because they haven't, but by you saying that they are, you're actually egging on people who have thought about it. So don't make it normal for people to commit suicide. And then there's a whole heap of state welfare stuff. There's a bunch of companies who claimed the wage subsidy didn't need it or use it, have to give it back now. So we're not in anywhere near as dire straits as the grumblers have made us out to be. And ultimately it saved us getting into dire straits. So I guess I'm just really frustrated that this is going to be a political leg up for National and anyone else who wants to have a crack at Labour to have a crack, and just take advantage of the fact that everyone was inconvenienced and want someone to take it out on. So why not take it out on the people who inconvenienced you, even though it was a necessary evil? Anyhow, sorry. Just annoys me. And I guess finish off me specifically. I am feeling very chipper because we managed to sign up with a company to move us down to Christchurch. Moving companies have been rushed off their feet. We're yet to hear from the company that we originally paid $3,000 to, so we'll be hitting them up for a refund once we get down to Christchurch and settled in. And it's been an interesting experience organising the move. So I applied to the government for permission to travel. Oops. And pleaded my case, and they basically said, yep, you don't need any special paperwork because you're moving house. Just make sure you've got proof that you're moving house with you while you travel in case you're stopped. So I'm really not sure what that looks like, but I figure a one-way ferry ticket and a car full of stuff to move will do the trick, and that email from the government, no, we are not going backwards, mate. I then booked a flight down to Christchurch, booked myself a ferry as well as an Airbnb. The Airbnb for me works exactly the same as it did in the past. I imagine there'll be a bunch more cleaning and shit required on their end. The ferry, you go through the normal booking process, and then they've got a COVID form where you sort of have to say why you're travelling, and then they assess it and approve or not. So I've had my approval, which I then have to present when I check into the ferry. So that's a pretty good, robust process. Air New Zealand, we just booked as usual and haven't had any COVID related follow-up from them. So be interesting to see what happens at the airport, though. An article that I read, an opinion piece, and God, you've got to be careful of New Zealand media, and particularly opinion pieces, because I get my news from stuff because I know this seems the best one available to me. New Zealand Herald, half of the content you have to pay for. And there's just been some rotters, like one of the articles, they just had a clickbait headline basically saying businessman brags about using wage subsidy as profit, and then the article was saying the businessman hadn't used the wage subsidy yet, but was going to use it to pay people's wages, down the track as the business needs it, because it will be a hard time. It's just that they've got a backlog right now of work, so they're all good. So that businessman's suing for defamation, fair enough. The other day, that basically it threw out a bunch of economic predictions. This guy's a political reporter. He's thrown out predictions, a bunch of numbers, with absolutely no research or anything to back it up. So it's purely just trying to upset people. So anyhow, I was reading an opinion piece on stuff that said basically nothing, well, like there's no extra checks to board a plane. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think the final sort of, interesting part of the whole move situation is I dropped my motorbike off at the depot, and that was a good example of most business. Well, I think businesses have to keep a register of who comes to their premises and stuff. So you get to the front door, you call, they open the door, you go and sign in, you stand back 2 meters, they come and talk to you, and it's all quite, it's quite well managed. It was quite nice to see that in action. Interestingly, actually, New World, I was just thinking supermarkets are kind of the only exposure that I've had to the world. But New World have I think it's a speed thing. So you just put everything in your trolley and then you load up at your car, which I guess is fair enough. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of the world at the moment. Will be very interesting to see if when we go into level 2, and what that looks like. So the reason I'm doing a video today is because the moving truck's coming tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll get around to watching or reading up on what Jacinda says, but I'll keep you posted.